Okay, let's move on to the topic of Iran, Patrick, and the question of the nuclear deal then.
Yeah, let's take a look at this here. So this is what's dominating the headlines right now of the last 24 hours is the Iran nuclear issue here. And when we say Iran nuclear issue, what are we really talking about? Well, we're talking about this. It is really an Israeli nuclear issue. It really has more to do with what Israel wants out of Washington and with Iran, because Iran's one of the last countries in the area in the Middle East, in West Asia, that's standing up for the native Palestinian population and the people of the Levant. So let's take a look at the particulars here. So what's going on? Iran faces, quote, snapback sanctions over its nuclear program. So here's what that means. So remember the JCPOA Iran nuclear deal that Trump basically destroyed in his first term? The deal was that there would be snapback sanctions. So UN sanctions were lifted against Iran. If they did the JCPOA, they did the JCPOA. And now they're threatening to put the sanctions back because they're saying that Iran is derelict of its obligations and responsibilities for the JCPOA. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Let's look at the particulars here. For France, Britain, and Germany, that's the E3. The E3, they've initiated a process of triggering a snapback mechanism that automatically reimposes all of the UN sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program or its alleged nuclear weapons program, saying that Iran has willfully departed from their 2015 deal. That's pretty incredible, bearing in mind what the U.S. and Israel have just done to Iran, but we'll leave that aside for the moment. The sanctions were put in effect as basically conventional arms embargo, restrictions on ballistic missile development, asset freezes, travel bans, and a ban on producing nuclear-related technology here. And then finally, the E3 offered Iran a delay in the snapback talks back in July if Iran met three conditions: resume negotiations with the U.S. over its nuclear program, allowing the UN nuclear inspectors access, IAEA inspectors access to the nuclear sites, and accounting for over 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium that so apparently went missing, that Trump said he destroyed, but it turns out he didn't, or they don't believe he didn't. Here's Iran's response, Mike. This is Iran's response. Tehran, which now enriches uranium at near nuclear weapons grade levels, has rejected the proposal. So that's the thing. While they're negotiating, Israel mounted a sneak attack on Tehran. I mean, we all saw what happened. Of course, Iran retaliates. Then the U.S. strikes Iran, an unprovoked attack by the U.S. So the U.S. left the JCPOA unilaterally in Trump's in 2018, May, and then so they're out. So Iran kept playing ball with the JCPOA, and then Israel and the U.S. attack Iran and its civilian nuclear program. And now they're saying that Iran is somehow breach of the agreement. It's a joke. The EU didn't even fulfill its obligations, its financial obligations. They didn't. Iran's been complaining about that for years. Nothing. So this is just so disingenuous on the part of Europe. But this is where Israel wants Europe to go on this, and they're quite happy to abide by whatever Israel wants. So this is a total sham, as we can see. But here's another problem. Take a look at this. So Iran, IAEA inspectors to return after the Supreme National Security Council gives their approval. This is a strategic move by Iran, Mike, but the hardliners in Iran are basically going crazy right now, saying, how can you let them back into the country after what happened? And here are the accusations. This is Trita Parsi. He's with the Quincy Institute, Responsible Statecraft in the United States. He said, on the surface, these demands seem reasonable, but Tehran has legitimate reservations. Iranian officials suspected that the IAEA of leaking sensitive information that enabled Mossad's assassination campaign against Iranian nuclear scientists, and they fear that revealing the stockpile's location would simply invite another round of U.S. airstrikes. Iran was at the negotiation table when Israel and the U.S. began bombing it. The E3 now insists Tehran return to talks, yet make no parallel demand that Washington refrain from bombing again, and Israel refrains, quite frankly, because that was an unprovoked attack by Israel. Right. So Trita Parsi, of course, very astute political commentator. Of course, I think he's absolutely correct on this. But this is a problem now in Iran because the hardliners are like, why are we playing ball? I think Iran's playing a long game. And I think Russia might be advising them that this is the way to go in order to build consensus more broadly in the international community, even though it's a risk. They think it's a calculated risk that they're willing to take, that somehow there'll be an exit out of this. I don't think so. I think Iran and the U.S. are planning for another war. They're going to attack them again, probably in the next couple
Israel
of months.
and
Israel and the U.S. are going to attack Iran again.
Yeah.
Because the U.S. are moving long range, like the Aegis and the THAAD missile systems. They're moving more of these into Israel right now. So that's clearly to defend Israeli installations and cities from Iranian missile strikes.
Because one of the things that came out of the previous attack was that they got to see where their weaknesses were in their own defense.
That's right. That's right. So right now we're at a potential stalemate here. If Iran leaves the Non-Proliferation Treaty, then they're exactly in the same status as Israel. They could have an undeclared nuclear weapon. They're not part of the NPT like Israel, and that is a sort of unofficial stalemate in the region. But I don't think it's going to work because the United States has overwhelming force.
Well, it's not going to work because there are no honest brokers in the West.
That too. It's not a level playing field, and that's the source of the whole problem.
No honest brokers in the West, and I'm not really sure what else we can say about that. But right. The other thing I was going to mention there was the E3. This isn't. We've mentioned this many times in this program, but it's one of these sort of descriptions that tends to go under the radar. But the E3 is kind of an informal bloc between the UK, France, and Germany. And we were talking about the fact that Slovakia and Hungary are sort of being paired off from the coalition of the willing, in inverted commas. But right at the core of that is this E3 structure. And although that was originally set up to deal with the Iran nuclear issue, it's become something much more at the heart of this whole European defense initiative.
It's like the concert of Europe. This is where we're going. You know, by the way, Mike, you mentioned Hungary and Slovakia as peeling off and becoming dissidents within NATO and the EU. I'll tell you, if the United States did not meddle in the Romanian elections, Romania would be right there shoulder to shoulder with Hungary and Slovakia. But there was meddling, and they took the front runner out of the race, who was clearly against this war in Ukraine. Like Orban and Fico said, it's unwinnable. We need to de-escalate. And so they had him removed. I think the United States were deeply involved in that coup. So they didn't get honest elections in Romania. And who knows, with three major countries bordering Ukraine, where does that leave the other countries? Where does that leave Poland? I mean, that would certainly put pressure in Poland as well.
Well, I mean, Poland's inviting the pressure, because Poland is absolutely 100% on board with the whole Ukraine-Russia.
Well, the political class is.
Yes, yes, for sure. Yeah,
but probably not the voters.
No, that for sure, that is the case. Yes.
So, and same with Moldova as well. A lot of effort to install the current, leader in Moldova. They're afraid that somehow they're going to fall into the Russian sphere of influence.
Yeah.
So this is the new battle lines.
Oh, okay. Let's move on then, and we'll